So, how young were you when you learned that your interests could get you hurt? Because for me, it was 6. Welcome back to the Shield Network. I am your host, Bad News Harris, and this is episode 2 of L.O.R.E, the Casey Harris story. Bad memory. When I was still super little, it was about a year or so roughly after the events of the previous video, and my dad was home from work. It was on a weekend, because normally he had weekends off while he was a truck driver. And I woke up and I could smell something interesting, like I normally did. So I went into the kitchen, and of course my dad was sitting there drinking his coffee. And me, I've always been curious about what coffee tasted like, because it always smelled, like I said, interesting to me. And seeing it on TV always made it look like it tasted really good, so I always wanted to try it. And every time I'd see my dad drinking it, I would ask him to give me a taste, to which he would always say no, obviously, because I was so young. But today, I got a little surprised, because when I asked him, he actually agreed. He gave me one little sip and then told me I couldn't have any more, since little children should not be drinking coffee. Which I understood. I got it. I mean, I was happy with what I got. Fast forward to, I'm assuming, the next week or so. Mind you, like I stated in my previous video, back then my memory was jumbled really bad and had developmental issues that I will discuss in a different video. So, me saying roughly and about this time frame, and I'm assuming this and I'm guessing this, just work with me here, okay? Anyway, fast forward, and I once again smelled something interesting, so I went to the kitchen and found my mother drinking coffee. And mind you, I'm pretty sure that my dad had taken one of my siblings on one of our road trips during this time frame, because every once in a while he would take one of the 3 of us with him on one of his trips, just so we can, get out and experience the world in one way or another. They were really, really fun. I even met a Power Ranger once. It was cool. Anyway, back to the story. I noticed my mother was drinking coffee, so I decided to dip my toes back into the water and see if I could strike lightning twice. So I went up to my mother and asked her if I could have a sip of her coffee, to which she turned around and said no. Not something I was going to argue with. I mean, I wasn't an argumentative child back then. But then she had to continue and ask why I wanted to taste it. And me, I wasn't gonna lie to her. I was just like, Dad let me try his with us, or Dad let me have a sip of his the other day, so I thought I'd ask. And she went from not in a good mood, not in a bad mood, but she went to whatever mood she was in, into a stoic-esque mood. And then she decided to get up and begin brewing a brand new pot of coffee. Me, being the naive child that I was, I thought, hey, maybe that was all I needed to say, and now she's brewing a brand new pot to share with me. Not share with me, but give me a sip of, you get the idea. And while we were waiting for it to brew, she asked me if my dad would let me try anything else. And me, I told her no, because trying coffee was really the only thing I had aspired to being 6 years old. Go figure. So I thought that was just over and done with. I mean, the coffee was finished brewing soon after that, and I was getting excited. I thought we were about to sit down. I thought she was going to pour herself a new mug and just give me a little sip, kind of like what Dad did. That's not at all what happened. She got the pot, she got a brand new mug, then grabbed her unopened carton of cigarettes and told me to follow her to the car. Me? I, of course, was confused, but I wasn't about to ask questions. I followed her to the car. I got into the passenger seat. She got into the driver's seat. She got something to put the pot on in the middle of the two of us. She poured the mug, handed it to me, and said, if you want to try an adult drink, you are going to drink the whole thing. Why she took me out into the car to do this, I do not know. But, again, wasn't going to ask questions because I got to try something new. Well, I got to have more of it than I did before. So it gave me more of an experience with it. I didn't think that she was going to make me drink the entire pot, which is what happened. I mean, like, she didn't let me take breaks. I was like, I mean, that shit was hot and it was disgusting. And it became more and more disgusting the more I wanted to stop and the more she forced me to continue. And mind you, I made it all the way through the pot. And thankfully I didn't barf or get sick from it or anything like that. The worst I got at the time was I was just really super dizzy from, being a 6-year-old that just drank an entire pot of coffee. And when I was done, she asked if I was happy, and I was like, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't feel well, but I started nodding my head a little bit to signify, yeah, I was done, thank you. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. But that's when she reached to the dashboard, grabbed her carton of cigarettes, opened it up, and proceeded to force me to smoke the entire carton. Not the pack she pulled out, but the entire 20-pack carton in that same sitting. Which did make me super, super sick. It didn't end well. I did not feel well. And after, I don't know how the hell long it took me to do it, but I got through all of them. And my mother told me to stay in my seat because she was going to help me out of the car and back into the house. So she got out of her driver's seat, went around, opened up my door, and helped me get out. She told me to hold on to the door frame to keep balance while she helped me out. Which I thought it was going to make it a little bit easier. I grabbed the door frame, took a step out, and my mother shut the door. Well, my hand was still there. Needless to say, I screamed out in pain. She got the door back open, and I don't know if anything was broken in this process. She didn't take me to a hospital. What she did was she took my hand, sandwiched it between books, and then, which made it even worse, and then wrapped up my hand and my fingers individually to where they couldn't move. stayed like that for a while. I mean, we weren't going to school, so I'm pretty sure this was either a summer break or something like that. Like a time frame that was long enough for this to be wrapped and then it be taken off before questions were asked. And once again, it was one of those traumatic experiences that I would repress immediately after it happened, so I wasn't able to tell my dad or anyone else about what had just happened to me. It was one of those, I didn't understand what was going on until just before something bad was happening. Then I would get my flashback of the things that had happened before. Then the bad thing would happen. And then blank. And then I'd go about being my normal self again. Because after things were done and she acted like nothing was wrong and that she was the caring mother trying to make my boo-boos go away, blah blah blah, you get the idea. My curiosity turned into my absolute adamant refusal to ever want to be around either of them ever again. And that goes to this day. Like, I can't smell cigarette smoke without getting physically ill, and I playfully jab at Desi all the time when she gets her coffees because they make my stomach curl. At least it's playful banter between husband and wife at that point. Good memory. August 28th, 1993. The day that changed my life. You see, when I was a little kid, I wasn't much of a TV watcher at first. I was outside a lot. I liked to play. I liked to get into the dirt. Blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. I was an active child at first. But my dad apparently saw an advertisement for something on TV for kids that was coming up soon. And when the day came, he took me, sat me in front of the TV, and he sat in his chair, and we decided to watch. Because I wasn't about to argue with something my dad wanted to watch with me. I loved spending time with my dad. Hell, he's in all of my videos at this point. Anyway, he sat me down. He got excited waiting for me. And as I was watching, all of a sudden, the lightning bolt hit. The heavy metal music started. And Austin St. John did a spin kick on the screen. And I was immediately hooked. Because we had fighting. We had monsters. We had people fighting monsters. And the best part about it, we had giant fucking robots! As a kid, there was nothing better that could have been introduced to me. And that's what sparked the rest of all of this. But we're not going to get into that. Point is it was the first thing I ever became an actual fan of. The one thing I will always be a fan of. And it's something that I was never able to thank my dad enough for. Because granted, it's just a kid's show about, multicolored people fighting monsters every day. Nothing fantastical about it. Nothing special. Except it was special. And it inspired me in ways that, I just can't explain outside of just showing. Again, this in the back, my art style, me being a writer in general, it was branched from Power Rangers. All of my personality, everything about me growing up stemmed from Power Rangers. I learned a lot of life lessons through that show, depending on which season it was. A lot of them from the first three. Not the point. point is that it made me realize that there's more to life than the outside, and that I was interested in more than just living the life of Riley that I was. I was young, of course, but it was eye-opening because I didn't know that my imagination could expand beyond just random play in the dirt. Like playing with my toys, playing with my car, like toy cars, playing on my bike, that kind of thing. Typical stuff that every kid should be experiencing. But when I first started watching Power Rangers, the creativity in my mind just started expanding. I went from playing in the dirt with toy cars to wanting to not just be a Power Ranger, but to make something of my own that resembled or at least paid homage to it. And even still today, it's something I still want to do. But I'll get into that later too. It's just emotionally and inspirationally, it did so much for me. And it's so hard to explain it even for someone as articulate as I can be. But all I can say is that, holy shit, the show itself blew my mind. And lasting for 30 years, I'm happy that I could be a fan for it for as long as I was. Is. You get the idea. Seeing how it's all over. But hey, at least I got to experience it, and I have my dad to thank for it. So, yeah.